Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Robert Allen, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Flying Officer Gregory Young. We warmly welcome the family of Lance Corporal George Henry Priestley, whose story will be told shortly, and we acknowledge the family members watching the live stream of this ceremony who were unable to make it to the memorial today. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Return and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. If you're able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Lance Corporal George Henry Priestley. George Priestley was born on the 22nd of April 1894 in Raymond Terrace, north of Newcastle, New South Wales. One of 9 children born to George and Grace Priestley, he received his education at nearby Martin Creek State School. He then began work as a farmer, likely on the family property at Gostwick. Priestley enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 20th of April 1915, not long after his 21st birthday, and was assigned to the reinforcements of the 1st Battalion. In June, before leaving for the front, a farewell party was held in his hometown in honour of his enlistment. He was given an engraved gold watch and a fountain pen as gifts to the community. He embarked from Sydney later that month on board the troop ship Corporal. Private Priestley joined his unit on the Gallipoli Peninsula in August 1915, just in time to take part in the Battle of Lone Pine. The battle took place over 3 days of intense fighting between Allied and Turkish troops, resulting in the Australian units taking more than 2,000 casualties. Private Priestley was among those casualties, sustaining a shrapnel wound to his right leg. He was evacuated to Malta for medical treatment. In December 1915, he rejoined his unit in Egypt after the Allies abandoned the Gallipoli campaign. There he continued training with his unit before embarking to France in March 1916. Priestley reached France just days later and was sent north to the Somme, which had been the site of bloody fighting since 1914. From there, he wrote home to his sister Ella. Of course, we are supposed to be in the firing line, but what we have seen so far is much like a Sunday school picnic. Of course, odd ones go to hospital at times, but that is either from a bit of cold or one of the lads shooting flies with a catapult and the pebble glances off and hits someone. Result, hospital for sure. Fritz was sending gas for breakfast. This quiet introduction to the Western Front would be short-lived for Private Priestley, who was soon drawn into the fighting. His first major battle on the Western Front took place near the French village of Pozières on the 23rd of July 1916. Priestley's division captured the village and over 4 days fought to hold their gains at great cost, suffering more than 5,000 casualties by the time it was relieved on the 27th of July. Priestley was briefly hospitalised with influenza after the battle, joining his battalion at the end of August 1916. Shortly after, his unit was moved to the Belgian front for a period of rest. In December, he took a few weeks' leave to England before returning to the front in time to spend a bitterly cold winter of 1916 and 1917 in the churches of the Somme. In January 1917, Priestley became the company signaller and was promoted to Lance Corporal. The following month, he was serving with his battalion in the front lines around Flers. On the morning of the 11th of February, he was leaving his dugout when he was struck by enemy fire and killed. His comrade wrote to Priestley's mother to inform her of his death, describing him as one of the best liked men in the battalion. George was passing along the front trench after he was returning from his duty after paying a visit to the latrine when a German bullet struck him in the back, about 2 inches to the left side of the backbone. The bullet did not come out, but must have caught his heart. He fell, but stood up again and said to his comrades who went to his assistance, "I'm all right," and immediately collapsed with one word, Mum. Upon his lips, in almost a whisper, he passed away. Nobly, cheerfully and bravely he lived, and nobly, cheerfully, peacefully he died. George Priestley was 23 years old. Priestley's comrades buried him behind the trench where he fell and marked the area with a small wooden cross. In the aftermath of the war, his grave was moved to Wallen Court, British Cemetery, where his mother visited his grave in 1921. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour to my right among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Lance Corporal George Henry Priestley, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they'll be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.